You're sitting in New Hampshire, where my particular favorite candidate is picking up some significant ground right now. But
let's talk Nikki Haley and U.S. politics. I know that you are an official surrogate for the campaign. I know that you're very close with the ambassador, and I know that she obviously really had very high marks and reviews when she was the ambassador to the United Nations for how tough and tenacious she was in dealing with, you know, the countries that we would call our enemies, or they're not friends to the U.S. Elections matter. How would a Nikki Haley president deal with what you're seeing in the Middle East now versus what I would call a feckless president in Joe Biden?
Well, you know, if you listened to her on whichever show she was on Sunday, I don't remember, but she very specifically said, well, she didn't say in your words, you have to cut off the head of the snake. She said, we have to kill the entire leadership. And if that means some of the Iranians, we have to do that as well. She understands better than anybody the threat to Israel. I heard her say one time when she was ambassador that she and Ambassador Danan get up every morning and go in and get the crap beat out of them by every other country in the United Nations because of their support of Israel. If you remember, George W. Bush gave Ariel Sharon a blank check to do whatever he needed to do to support the state of Israel. And I don't think that Nikki will give them a complete blank check, but she'll come awful close to it. She understands what Israel has to do. Her best friends at the United Nations were the Israelis, and she understands their plight. She understands what they're putting up with. She understands how they have up until this time withheld, for lack of a better word, the full power that they're capable of. And I don't think, I think she firmly believes, you've heard her say this in the debate and is saying it every night, that Israel cannot continue to live with this. The rest of the world, they're not catching up with Israel. Israel's, continuing to stay ahead. They listen to that old Satchel Paige line, right? Don't look over your shoulder. Somebody's going to be catching you. They just keep staying ahead of the rest of the world. But you can't do it forever. You can't stay with the resources in China and Iran and Russia, all based on, well, China has no oil. But Venezuela and Iran.
Sure they do. We're selling it to them from our strategic petroleum reserve.
Exactly. We're draining our strategic petroleum reserve to give China oil. So she knows what it takes to get this done. And I think she'll allow the Israelis to do it, because the Israelis are not asking us for any kind of help. They're asking us for two things. Well, you can say help or not help. Number one, they're asking us to give them the green light and not to use moral suasion to stop them from taking care of the job, which is what we just talked about. They can't do it forever. They can't do it for more than another couple days. That's number one. And number two, we've got monster supplies of weaponry in Israel right now that are being stored. They're not being stored there for Israel, arguably. They're being stored there when we need them. But that we will release equipment to Israel and ammunition to Israel to allow them to finish the job. And I think Nikki knows all of that, and she'll be very supportive of that. And I don't want to say there's nothing more important. There is, to Americans, there is one thing more important, and it's down on our southern border, and that has got to be stopped. When you look at what's coming into this country now, Bob, you and I have a close friend who's got a big ranch on there, down on the border. And in the early days, he was telling me, this was 3-4 years ago, that all the people coming across the border were good folks. They were coming over here to take the menial jobs that Americans don't want to do anymore. And Ericka, I don't know, they come through your hometown, they might be in buses already. And that they would, on the ranch, they would give them water. They would let them stay there as they were moving through. Well, you're not getting millions of people. What do we have? 2.5 million that have come across now. And his brothers who still live on the ranch telling me that the ones that are coming across the border now are all packing. They're all coming here for the freebies, and so many of them are militants. They've all got guns. Ironically, everybody thinks that all the fentanyl is coming across, Larry's ranch. It's not. It's coming in the trucks that are going across the border, and we're not checking the trucks. So the fentanyl crisis is real, but it's not coming necessarily on the back. Sex trafficking, major issue, and that's coming across the river. Okay. The militants are coming across the river, but the bulk of the fentanyl is coming in these big panel trucks that are legally entering the United States across the bridge, but they've overwhelmed our ability to monitor them on the border. So that's a whole different issue we didn't talk about, but I can assure you, and you heard Nikki over and over and in the debate say, she didn't make a stop at the on the border Mexican restaurant like our vice president did and claimed I've been on the border, right? Yeah, to eat Mexican food in the restaurant chain, but she has made the border and she understands it, and she's going to stop that too.